Today, you'll improve your English faster by reading the news. And this method really works because when you learn with the news, you'll expand your vocabulary, learn advanced grammar, and learn correct pronunciation at the same time.
Let's get started.
Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our headline: the BBC received 728 complaints for failing to use Kate Middleton's correct title. Let's review this word here, complaints. This is the noun form, and a complaint is negative commentary that you receive. It's very common to use the verb form. You could say 728 people complained to the BBC or complained about the BBC. If you complain to someone, it means that person is receiving the complaint. But if you complain about someone, that is the topic of my complaint. So for example, I can complain to my best friend about the cold weather in Canada, for example. So my friend is receiving the complaint. The topic is the cold weather. In this example, complain is the verb, so you need to conjugate it with the subject and time reference. Here it's in the past simple. In this case, complaints is a noun, so it will be singular or plural. Here we have the us because it's plural. There are 728 more than one. The BBC received 728 complaints for failing. So this is the reason why it received the complaints. For failing to use Kate Middleton's correct title. This sentence structure could be replaced with complaints because it failed to use. You could say, we're in trouble. So to be in trouble, we're in trouble for failing to deliver on the project milestone. The milestone is simply a specific goal or objective that you must do at a specific time. So rather than completing the entire project at once, you can have specific milestones. Now, you could also say, instead of for failing to deliver, the infinitive, we're in trouble because we failed to deliver on the project milestone. So the same meaning is just different sentence structure. The second one with because we failed is probably more common. This sounds, for failing sounds a little more academic. Now, if you failed to do something, it means that you didn't do it. And it sounds like there was neglect or a problem, a difficulty, a challenge. There was some reason why. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's learn more about these complaints. The BBC has apologized to Catherine, Princess of Wales, for repeatedly referring to her as her maiden name, Kate Middleton, during the British broadcaster's recent coverage of Armistice Day. Let's go back here. Let's take this verb, apologize, to apologize. So notice here, apologize, we have this voiced sound. This is in the present perfect because it's an action that happened in the past. The BBC already apologized. Maybe they did it yesterday or last week, but there's an impact in the present. So you can think of it as a so now. So now they've improved their relationship with Catherine, Princess of Wales, or whatever the result in the present is. Has apologized to. You apologize to someone. And notice here we have our preposition for, and if we go right to the verb, because repeatedly is the adverb, it's optional. So let's remove it. For doing something. So you apologize, I'm sorry. That's how you apologize, I'm sorry. And you apologize to someone for doing something, or it could be for something. So you could have a noun, for the error, for the mistake. I apologize to my students for making a mistake, or I apologize to my students for the mistake. And similar to the structure we learned here, you can use because and then subject verb. So I could also say, I apologize to my students because I made a mistake. So notice here, the verb with mistake is make. You make a mistake. Make a mistake. Make sure you're using the correct collocation. Now, to reply to this positively, you could say, I accept your apology. So if I apologize and you want to let me know that you're not mad, you forgive me, you can say, Jennifer, I accept your apology. I accept your apology. Notice I'm using the noun form. An apology is a thing. It's the noun, apology. Apologize is the verb. So I accept something. I accept your gift. I accept your apology. That's why we use the noun here. Now, this is quite formal, to be honest. In this context of a formal event with the BBC and Catherine, Princess of Wales, she could say something formal like, I accept your apology. If I were apologizing to you, my friends, my students, even close business associates, I wouldn't use this formal option. You could use something more casual, more everyday, more friendly and say, don't worry about it. Jennifer, don't worry about it. We all make mistakes. We're human. That's okay. Or you can say, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Or to sound very casual, this one only use in a very casual situation. You can say, no biggie, Jennifer, no biggie, no biggie. Now, since we're friends, we can be casual with each other. Put no biggie, put no biggie in the comments. Because I want to make sure you accept my apology, because I'm sure I've made mistakes many times, so you can accept my apology. Let's keep going. Now here, remember I said just forget about this because it's optional. Adverbs are optional. Here it modifies the verb. So for repeatedly referring to her as her maiden name, this means that the BBC did this once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So it sounds like it did it again and again and again and again. So it sounds like it happened a lot, more than once and likely more than twice. So parents will use this with their kids a lot, I imagine. I've repeatedly asked her to clean her room. I've repeatedly asked her to put her shoes away when she comes home. And of course, you can use this with your husband, wife, your friends, anyone. So you can use this often to show frustration that something is not being done. So let's review this again. The BBC has apologized to Catherine, Princess of Wales, for repeatedly referring to her as her maiden name, Kate Middleton, during the British broadcaster's recent coverage of Armistice Day. In North America, we refer to this as Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day. So notice here, refer to something as. I just said in North America, we refer to this as Remembrance Day. So notice that sentence structure. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Notice we have quotation marks, so this tells me that the words are coming from someone, or in this case, something, because it's the BBC, the name of the media company. During our coverage of memorials to commemorate Armistice Day. So to commemorate something is when you officially recognize, pay tribute to something, and it can often be done by having a statue or a plaque. So you say this statue is to commemorate her contribution or his contribution. So that's the verb to commemorate Armistice Day. We mistakenly referred to Catherine, Princess of Wales, as Kate Middleton. So this was the error that they made. So again, we have refer to someone as something. These were errors during hours of live broadcasting, for which we apologize, the BBC said in a statement. So this is how they apologized. This was their official apology. Remember, apology is the noun. Notice here, if you're wondering, well, this is an S, and I'm pretty sure we saw a Z before. You're right. The North American spelling is with a Z. The British spelling is with an S, but the pronunciation is exactly the same. So in British English, I confirm this with an audio dictionary because I don't speak British English, but they pronounce this as Z, Zis. Apologize, which means it's pronounced as the voiced. And usually for spelling, you spell something with a Z to show it's the voiced sound. So this is a voiced sound. Apologize, apologize, apologize. Now let's also review the pronunciation of this. Say it out loud. Well, hopefully you did not say the same pronunciation as I live in Canada. It's not the same pronunciation. It's live, I've. So think of I've. Live means in real time. So you are not watching a live recording of this video because I recorded it previously, then I edited it, and you're now watching it later. But the live broadcast means in real time. So if I make a mistake, I can't edit it because it's in real time. So think of when you watch someone, so think of I live. So maybe that will help you with the pronunciation. Live, and then I live, if, so it's more unstressed. Let's keep going. Jim Shannon, a member of Parliament for Northern Ireland, said, a reminder to at BBC News. So this is perhaps on some social media platform. I'm not sure which one, but of course they have the at symbol. So a reminder to the BBC, but this is just how you tag them on social media. A reminder to at BBC News to educate its broadcasters that the Princess of Wales has not been Kate Middleton since 2011. Her correct title is Catherine, Princess of Wales. Get it right. Adding this to the end definitely shows some frustration or anger. It could be interpreted as rude depending on how or where you use it. So if one of my team members shows me something that they created for review and I look at it and I say, oh, we need to do it this way, get it right. That could be quite an abrupt way of delivering that message. But I guess this member of parliament felt like it was appropriate to show this frustration. Now, you can use this in a more positive way by saying maybe, let's make sure we get it right. So we have one chance to impress the client. Let's make sure we get it right, to get it right. So you can use it in a more positive way. But here, notice it's the imperative. And the imperative is to give a direction or instruction. So they're not saying it in a let's get it right team. It's get it right, get it right. So it's delivered more directly based on the grammatical structure as well. Let's review this. A reminder to someone to do something. This is very common to use this word reminder. It's a noun. That's why they have this a, because it's the article with the noun. Now, a reminder means I want you to remember something. So if I want you to remember it, it means you already knew this. So the BBC, of course, knew the correct title, but they forgot. So the the member of parliament is giving them a reminder. But this is extremely common in everyday speech and business speech as well. So I send a lot of text messages to my husband, my friends, family members, coworkers, saying this, just a reminder. Now, sometimes I say just a reminder, or I can say a reminder, or you can even drop the article in casual speech and just use the word reminder. Reminder that I won't be home for dinner. So this would be a text I would commonly send to my husband. Reminder, I won't be home for dinner. Or just a reminder, I won't be home for dinner. Now, of course, I could simply say, I won't be home for dinner, but adding the words reminder, just a reminder, it means I said this before. So I told you I won't be home for dinner, maybe even 3 hours ago when we spoke, but I'm saying it again because it's something that's easy to forget. So it's very commonly used. Let's review this part. The Princess of Wales has not been the present perfect, has not been Kate Middleton since. So since 2011, we have a beginning point in time. What if I wanted to change this to 14 years? The time of the recording, it would be 14 years. What word do I need? Hopefully you said, of course, Jennifer, of course you need for. If you're not familiar with since and for, you must learn how to use them correctly. It's basic grammar, but I see a lot of mistakes, even from students that I consider to be more intermediate or advanced, but they still make basic mistakes. So you have to make sure you correct this mistake. For, duration, beginning and end, since, a starting point in time. And these are keywords for the present perfect or the present perfect continuous if the sentence structure allows. Okay, let's keep going. The apology. So of course, this is the noun form. The apology comes after the BBC also apologized. The verb form. It's great to see the noun form and the verb form side by side. The apology comes after the BBC also apologized to U.S. President Donald Trump last week over an editing mishap that featured in a documentary. Okay, so over an editing mishap, you could replace the word over with for or because of an editing mishap. And here, mishap, this simply means accident or mistake. So an editing accident, an editing error, mistake, mishap that featured in a documentary, which he being Donald Trump, which he has threatened to sue over. Okay, so if you threaten to do something, it means you say you're going to do something. So if I threaten to quit, I would say, I'm going to quit. But usually there's some sort of condition. I'll quit if you don't give me a raise, or I'll quit if I don't get additional vacation time, or whatever it might be. So that's how you threaten to do something. So threaten to sue. So there might be some condition. If you don't do this, I will sue. Or if you do this, I will sue. And sue means that it's a legal process. You probably know it because it's very common in movies and TV shows. Let's keep going. On Thursday, the BBC apologized to Trump for how a 2021 speech was cut together. So cut in this sense would mean edited together. So if Trump spoke for 10 minutes. Maybe he said a few words at the 2-minute mark. So 2 minutes into the video, he said a few words. And then he took those few words, but then he says some different words at the 8-minute mark. So they took those two and put them together to make it sound like one sentence or one idea. That's cut together. So put together, placed together. So for how a 2021 speech was cut together in an October 2024 documentary titled Trump, A Second Chance. So this is the name of the documentary, released, of course, by the BBC, saying that it sincerely regrets. So the BBC is the one saying that the BBC, because it's a company, it's an organization. So you would refer to it as third person. The options are he, she, it. In English, we don't have gender nouns for things like a company, so it's just it. Saying that it sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited. So the manner in which is a more formal way of simply saying how. It regrets how the video clip was edited. You could use how. In a more everyday speech, it would sound too formal to say this in just everyday speech. Even in business speech, you would just say how the video clip was edited. Notice here we have a 2021 speech, an October 2024 documentary. You may not be that familiar with seeing an article, or an, before a year or a month. Well, that's because the article is not with the year or the month. The article is with the noun. Articles go with nouns, so you have to look for the noun. We have a speech. This is what the article goes with, a speech. Now we have a documentary, but articles change from a to an based on the word that comes next, not the noun. So the noun is documentary, but because we have October and it starts with a vowel sound, usually the spelling is the same, but you can have a vowel sound that is not spelled with a vowel. And that's why we have an. Now, 2021 in this case and October 2024, they function as adjectives. They give you information about the nouns, but adjectives are optional, so you can remove them grammatically. So the BBC apologized to Trump for how a speech was cut together, but adjectives give information. So what type of speech? A 2021 speech, a speech made in 2021. So you can just add 2021 to before speech because articles or adjectives come before nouns. So we have article, adjective, noun, and adjectives are optional. So you can get rid of them. The article belongs to the noun. Okay, so that's why we have a 2021 speech and an October 2024 documentary. Let's keep going. However, the BBC rejected a claim of defamation. So this word, however, is used to show a contrast. The contrast being they accepted that they made a mistake because they said they sincerely regret the manner in which the clip was edited. So they're taking responsibility for a mistake and they apologized as well. But now they're rejecting a claim of defamation. So that's this use of however. There's a contrast. They accepted one thing, they're rejecting another thing. However, the BBC rejected a claim of defamation made by the US president's lawyers and has refused to pay any compensation. So defamation, this is a legal term. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but because I'm not a lawyer, my understanding is when you harm the reputation of someone. And if their reputation is harmed, then they have some sort of negative consequences because of that. So that would be a legal issue called defamation. But they rejected it. So they said, no, yes, we made this editing mistake, but no, there was no legal defamation. And they've refused to pay. So we will not pay. Of course, refuse. And has refused to pay any compensation. Compensation is money to compensate. So compensate is the verb form. So let's say Donald Trump lost $10 million because his reputation was damaged. So the BBC would give him $10 million plus additional money because he lost that money. So that's compensation. If you're hurt in an accident, that's what insurance is for, to compensate you, to give you money because of the injury or what you suffered. The controversy plunged the broadcaster into its biggest crisis in years. So the broadcaster being the BBC. And the controversy being this editing mishap with the documentary. And that's the controversy. So if it plunged the broadcaster, the BBC, into its biggest crisis, plunge means it forced it, and it happened very quickly. So the BBC entered a crisis and it happened very quickly. That's this use of plunge. Its biggest crisis in years, and triggered the resignations. So caused the resignations to happen. Resignation is when a person says, I am leaving this job. I resign. But they're resigning. They're voluntarily leaving the position so they don't have to get fired. Because if you're fired, there's a lot of negative consequences. But if you leave your job voluntarily, at least you can say, well, I resigned. I wasn't fired. I resigned. The resignations of BBC Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turnus. Trump subsequently, so after, Trump then told, so subsequently is a more formal way. An everyday casual way would be Trump then told. Trump subsequently told reporters that he intends to sue the BBC for between $1 billion and $5 billion. So notice, you can do the first amount and the second amount, then you verbalize this, which is dollars. $1 billion and $5 billion. You don't have to say the dollars after this one if you're going to be saying it immediately with the next one. Despite the broadcaster's apology. So despite means that it happened, but they're not considering it. They're not taking it into account. They're ignoring it, basically. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. The BBC received 728 complaints for failing to use Kate Middleton's correct title. The BBC has apologized to Catherine, Princess of Wales, for repeatedly referring to her as her maiden name, Kate Middleton, during a British broadcaster's recent coverage of Armistice Day. During our coverage of memorials to commemorate Armistice Day, we mistakenly referred to Catherine, Princess of Wales, as Kate Middleton. These were errors during hours of live broadcasting for which we apologize, the BBC said in a statement. Jim Shannon, a member of Parliament for Northern Ireland, said, a reminder to at BBC News to educate its broadcasters that the Princess of Wales has not been Kate Middleton since 2011. Her correct title is Catherine, Princess of Wales. Get it right. The apology comes after the BBC also apologized to U.S. President Donald Trump last week over an editing mishap that featured in a documentary, which he has threatened to sue over. On Thursday, the BBC apologized to Trump for how a 2021 speech was cut together in an October 2024 documentary titled Trump, A Second Chance, saying that it sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited. However, the BBC rejected a claim of defamation made by the U.S. president's lawyers and has refused to pay any compensation. The controversy plunged the broadcaster into its biggest crisis in years and triggered the resignations of BBC Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turnus. Trump subsequently told reporters that he intends to sue the BBC for between $1 billion and $5 billion, despite the broadcaster's apology. Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.